Let's get some analysis now. I'm joined, as I am every week, by Greg Sheridan, foreign editor at The Australian. Greg, a real change in tone from the US, from senior officials, and now talking about the prospect of a Ukrainian victory.
Yes, I think that's very notable, Kieran. Initially, they were just wanting to impose a cost on the Russians and, support the Ukrainians morally and politically. But as the Ukrainian fight back has gone on and been very successful in different parts, at enormous cost, of course, the Americans have upped the quantity and quality of equipment they're committing. They've upped their political commitment. The Secretaries of State and Secretary of Defence were in Kyiv this week. And the tone now is that Ukraine will prevail. Now, I don't think that is by any means decided, but the idea that the American system is invested now in a Ukrainian victory, which wouldn't mean that Russia vacates all the territory of Ukraine, but would mean that it doesn't, for example, get the southern city of Odessa, and it doesn't take more of the Donbass region that it already had at the start of hostilities. That's striking. You know, small nations do sometimes defeat big nations in war. Poland beat the Soviet Union in 1920 in a little-remembered war. And I think that is a very big change in American outlook.
Yeah, it is indeed. Who would have thought? But that's where we are a few months in now. Let's look at some movements closer to home of real concern in our neighbourhood, that being the Solomons and China deal. The Prime Minister's language around a red line, it really evoked that ill-fated declaration of a red line recently by the former US President Barack Obama, and that didn't end well, did it?
No, indeed. Frankly, the Prime Minister's declaration of a red line for China was truly bizarre. We're a nation of 26 million people with almost no force projection capability in our military at all. And we're saying to a country of 1.3 or 1.4 billion people with the second strongest military in the world and a massively increased military budget, that if you establish a base in another sovereign nation, 1,700 kilometres from our shore, that's a red line which you will have crossed. Well, the term red line means there'll be terrible and adverse consequences for you. It normally means there'll be a military consequence for you. Now, this is kind of ridiculous. This is like a Peter Sellers movie, the Mouse That Roared or something. We've got every right to express our opposition to this move. But honestly, I never want to be party political about this, but I can't make head nor tail of the government's bellicose rhetoric over all this, because they're not asking the Australian people to do anything. This has been a car key election without any car key. There are no weapons systems or military capabilities that the government is acquiring in short order. There seems to be no purpose to this rhetoric other than domestic politics. But I think it makes us look ridiculous internationally. Everybody knows we've got an argument with China. You don't get any extra points by going in for ridiculous rhetoric. This is either something that a very powerful nation does or that a completely impotent nation does when it can do nothing other than make a declaration.
And is there any hope of changing the trajectory of the Solomons? It is a democracy. The Prime Minister could be voted out there too, but does that change anything?
Oh, yes, I think there's a very strong chance that we can still stop this deal. So we've failed up till now. We've definitely failed up till now. But probably the people of the Solomon Islands don't like this deal much. The opposition there certainly doesn't like the deal. All of Solomon's specific neighbours who have expressed a view on the matter have expressed themselves opposed to this deal. The danger will be that China acts while Sogavare is still in office to make the deal irreversible, because they're already Solomon's biggest trade partner. They've got tremendous financial leverage. They will certainly bribe the elites and so on, the local elites. And if they get, a 99-year lease and build a port and so forth, it'll be very hard even for a future Solomon's government to turn them away. But we have now everything to play for the next 12 months, really the next 3 months, are absolutely critical. Solomon's politics is always extremely fluid, and Sogavare is a very mercurial, unpredictable character himself.
We'll be watching it closely. Whoever wins on May 21, Greg, we'll stay in touch as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Kieran.